So I just have to remember, okay, what my why is, the fact that it's bigger than me, and just kind of just motivating yourself that way to get up out of the bed to go accomplish the very thing that it is that you need to go out and accomplish. So it's just that whole showing up piece. Sometimes we may not be able to show up 100% our best version like every single day, but if we could just show up, that's just enough, and then we work on how we show up throughout the day.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, it's Audley Stevenson, and I'm back for another edition of the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. This is the Audacious Living Podcast, and I appreciate you for being here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. As always, I encourage you to follow us on our social media channels. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the handle The Audacious Pod. And if you're watching this episode on YouTube, then you know we've got that bell down below. You just tap it and ding, ding, ding. You're connected to all great things Audacious related. Now, if you caught episode 157 of the podcast, which is the episode just before this one, you'll know that I introduced to you the BOLD framework, which is something I use as part of my speaking work that I do. And it's used to help my audiences understand what being audacious is all about. It's simply a 4-letter acronym called, again, the BOLD framework. So it's better than yesterday, outlast adversity, live your truth, and disrupt the norm. We touched on better than yesterday on the last episode, and now we'll move on to the O in the framework, which is outlast adversity. This one is, this is one that almost every single one of us can relate to in some fashion, because one time or another, we've had to come face to face with adversity. It wasn't fun, it may have been painful, and it probably created a lot of angst for us. However, regardless of what was going on, we still needed to push through, because giving up isn't always an option. And for those who persevered and pushed through and made it to the other side, something wonderful happened. In a lot of cases, things got better, because that's where the greatness lies. And it's for this reason why we have to go forward and claim what's rightfully ours, but it doesn't happen until we get to the other side of adversity. And it's for this reason why quitting isn't an option, and we have to find some way to outlast adversity at all costs. Now, Tameka Bright joins me on this episode of the Audacious Living Podcast, and I'm super pleased that she could be here. She certainly knows a thing or two about outlasting adversity. She has a very powerful story, which you're certainly going to appreciate. She's a radio show host and author, a podcaster herself, and she's really made it her personal mission to empower, inform, and inspire others. Her book is called Broken for the Purpose, and it's really a journey through her life, from being adopted to losing both of her parents before the age of 21, having to deal and learn how to deal with rejection, to doing the unthinkable, to really and then learning to accept who she is. So all these things were happening to her, and she chronicles them in her book. We discuss how she was able to find joy and happiness in the most challenging times, her personal story, again, learning about being adopted and losing both parents, to the importance of showing up as the best version of ourselves every single day, even when we don't feel like it. It really is a fun chat that I think you'll all enjoy. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Tameka Bright. Enjoy. Hey, Tameka, thank you for being here with me as a guest on the Audacious Living podcast. It's a long time coming, but I'm glad that we can make it happen.
Yes, same here. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I gotta say, you're Tameka Bright. Your last name is very fitting with your personality. Lots of it. I'm sure you've heard this before. I'm not the first one to tell you. Great energy. I mean, I'm told I got energy, but when I watch you work, man, I got to stand back and catch my breath. So I appreciate you doing that, because I think what happens, and not to get too serious too quickly, but what happens when we put our energy out in the world, the kind of impact it has on other people is just profound. And that's why we've got to be who we are, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I get that all the time. That is my actual name. People ask me all the time, is that your actual name? Yes, that's my name. Tameka Bright is my name. And, I just thank God for the gift, and I just want to use it to glorify him, and just recognizing that it does come from him, because that's what we need to do. When we don't, that's how we lose it,
That's
So, I'm thankful to be able to do that.
When did you recognize your impact on others? And you talked about being a gift, and I agree with you that it is a gift. When did you recognize that this is a gift I can use to help other people?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think I've ever had anybody ask me like, hey, when you realize that this was making an impact. I guess, when you get the comments of people telling you, thank you for sharing your story, or thank you for sharing that presentation, that really helped me, or, getting that. So that's always helpful, and that's always encouraging. It lets you know that you are,
Yes.
on the right path. Or for me, it's just when I'm feeling peace about it. If I've put something out there and I feel peace about what I've done, then I know, okay, that was a God-led thing, because again, for me, when I'm doing whatever I'm doing, when I am speaking, or if I'm on air, or whatever it is, I just ask to be led by him, where I need to go, what I need to do, what I need to say, that type of thing. So, that was a good question.
Well, it's something I've wondered about, because I know even for myself, I go through moments where, and maybe I'm feeling tired, or I'm low energy that particular day, or I don't feel like myself for whatever reason. I'm a human like everyone else. We're all human. We have those ups and downs. And then someone might say something that triggers a thought or remind you about who you are or what you should be doing. And you're like, this is
that's it. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's it. You have those days, like you said, like for me, it was this morning. It's just like, I really don't feel like doing today. Like,
Right.
You have those, and I probably have those days more often than I should,
Right.
but we do. And so I just have to remember, okay, what my why is, the fact that it's bigger than me, and, just kind of just motivating yourself that way to get up out of the bed to go accomplish the very thing that it is that you need to go out and accomplish, So it's just that whole showing up piece. Sometimes we may not be able to show up 100% our best version, like every single day, but if we could just show up, that's just enough, and then we work on how we show up throughout the day.
That's right. And I think if you sustain that over the course of the day, you eventually get to where you're supposed to be.
Right.
Some of us are slower getting started than others. I know I can be, right?
Not a morning person at all. I'm really not. But once I do get going, then then it's all good. So there we go.
Got you. Now you generally have a lot on your plate, and part of the reason again why I appreciate you taking the time like this, between you working on the radio and you're a speaker, and I know you talk to groups and give presentations, and you've got the book. We'll talk about your book as well. Where did it all like? Is it one of these? I know, like I'll use myself as an example, where things just come up, like, I'll try that, or I'll do that, and next thing you know, you're doing 3 or 4 things, but that wasn't the initial plan, right? But you're in it, right? What was it like for you?
Yeah. So for me, the initial plan, and this is all in my book too, was I was going to be an attorney. I was going to work with music and media, and you couldn't tell me nothing. That's what I was going to do. I was going to live out in Cali, and I was going to be living my best life. Yes. That did not happen. And you know what? I'm really glad that it didn't. I'm so glad that, we have our plans for ourselves and the dreams and goals and things that we want to do. But I know, for me, when I just realized, like, all right, you just need to work and operate in what God has for you. You have to realize that his plan is bigger and greater than what we can imagine. It turns out to be so much better, right? So I didn't get accepted, not one law school, not one. I didn't even get a provisional acceptance. Like, we may accept it if you do this, and I mean, it was very heartbreaking. Yes, because I had the grades, I was decent. I was honor roll in high school, and I got to college, and I did well with my grades and all. I maintained a good GPA. But that testing, that daggone LSAT, that took me out. I took that twice, and I've never been good at testing. Even on my SATs, I got just enough just to play sports in college. That's all I needed. That's what I did,
Right.
So I've always been academically, always been there. So I just knew, that I can get in any school, any law school to go and do what it is I need to do. But when I look now, like there is still that desire to get my law degree just because,
Right.
but I'm just like, why do you do that? Because you're not gonna do nothing with it. Like, I don't want to be an attorney. I just want the degree because I've just always wanted it. But
Sure.
I stopped at my master's, so I'm good.
Gotcha.
So I'm good to go. So I did that, and I've always liked to like encourage people, so just getting on air, just how that happened, that was like not a thing. I never thought, oh, I'd be on radio.
Right.
Okay, in this earring, we're gonna fight, so we're just gonna let it be. So that was never a thing. So I just one day walked up into the station of a Radio One station in the DMV area.
Okay.
And they were looking for a board op, and that's what I was. And I really liked that because you get to push a bunch of buttons, and that was just my thing.
Sure.
To be doing that, right, to run other shows.
Yep.
And then one day I just was like, oh, I think I can do this. And so I just pushed the mic. Like, true story, I turned the mic on and did a break live. Didn't think nobody was listening. So I was like, let me just do it.
Yeah.
After I did that, the PD from that station came in the studio, and he was like, was that you that just went on air? And I was like, yeah. So I was like, get quiet, because I didn't think nobody was listening.
Right.
Now he was like, oh, we're going to start you voice tracking next week. And that's what he did. So that's how it kind of, began. And then now here we are. So it wasn't anything that I went to school for, but that's why I do realize that this is a gift that, that I feel like God has given me, and just to allow me to use it the way that he sees fit.
Talk about just taking a risk on yourself, just trying something and not knowing.
Yeah, I was like, nobody listening. It's an AM station. Ain't nobody really listening. So.
Everyone except for the PD, right?
Right. Everybody said, right. I didn't even think about that.
Well, it's so funny. Like, again, I use her taking a risk where you just sort of try something, not knowing the outcome, not knowing the end result, just knowing where you are in that exact moment.
Right,
and,
right.
You never know what comes out of that. Now you look at this, now you've got, you established a radio career based on a decision you made in a moment, which is outstanding.
Yeah, I know, right? I didn't think about it like that either. Yeah, I'm just kind of here because of that. Of course, took a hiatus from it, did other things. I coached cheerleading full-time. Sure. Cheerleading is the #1 sport out there next to track and field. Don't come for me for that, because you will not win. Cheer is a sport, okay? So every time I go to an event, some type of game, I'm looking at the cheerleaders. I'm like, where the cheerleaders? Why aren't they stunting? What kind of stunts are they doing?
Yes.
Like, that's why I'm there. So and then I love track and field too. So both of the sports of which I've done. So I just always had a love for that. So I got to coach both. I coached cheerleading. I did everything but middle school cheer. I coached every type of like all-star, Pop Warner, high school, and I did collegiate. And that was by far the best. Collegiate was the best because you had to deal with parents.
Gotcha.
So that was the best. And that's also where I won 4 national championships. Two. So I was excited about that. And so just, I did that and always worked in the school system in some capacity.
Yes.
And that's what I do now too. I'm the parent university coordinator for communities and schools.
Oh, amazing.
So yes, shout out to communities and schools. It is a national organization. It's a nonprofit organization that helps kids remain in school and give them the resources that they need to succeed in school and outside. And so I work strictly with the parents as the parent university coordinator. So I really do enjoy that as well.
There you are, back in that encourager role again, right?
Yeah,
now encouraging young people to stay in school, which is also needed. So tell me how the transition is. It how you got into that role? Is it from sports, or how did that happen?
How I got into the parent university.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Well, working with CIS in general. Yeah. So I was in radio. I was at college cheerleading, coaching collegiate cheerleading. And after I had my son, I just knew that I had to do more. Having a child just really shifted my entire focus, because then it does not become about you. Like you have this little person that you don't have a manual for, and you just gotta make sure that they're taken care of, right? And so whatever it is you got going on, it just kind of goes out the window. You got to do what's best for your child. Knowing too that you got to show up for yourself too, because if you can't, then you won't be what you need to be for your child. So I realized that. So I just knew that I had to make some type of change. Something had to be different financially, all of that. It just kind of, set us up for better. So I decided to leave cheer and pursue radio full time. What? So, because I felt like that's what I was supposed to do. I felt like God said, hey,
Sure.
it's time to go ahead and walk away from that. And it was definitely some lessons there. I felt like I set myself up financially to make that move. I didn't just go, just do it. I prayed about it. I felt like I did all the right things, but it came with some heartaches for sure. Leaving a full-time job with benefits, all of that, to going into radio where they pay you by the hour.
Right.
With no benefits, So got on that, because that was me going back into radio, and I did that, and then got fired from I was on like 3 stations, and I got fired from all 3 stations at one time, like back to back, October, November, December. This was in 2018. And I just felt crushed. I was like, dang, I feel like I got a gift for this, but then I get let go over something that really wasn't, like, you really let me go for that. But and then one station just was no reason, just, it's a business decision. Yeah, okay. So that really hurt. But I had to have a job. So I saw something within CIS. At that time, it was a student support where we worked with just the kids at that time.
Yep.
And because I had been in school before, I'd been a teacher before and all. So I was like, yeah, let's just go for that. And so I did. And I ended up enjoying it, working with CIS and the mission and all, and working with the kids. And then the position came for the parent university coordinator during the pandemic. And decided to take that. And it allowed me to still be able to get back on air. And that was because I hadn't been on air until it's been a year now since I've been with the station.
Right.
So being able to go back to it, I'm excited about that too.
I just love the way you're just able to pivot, right? Like, so something happened and you have to sort of, okay, well, I've got to figure out where to go, because the train keeps going; it doesn't stop, right? When when bad things happen, so it's being able to make that shift into, okay, so where can I take this? And it sounds like that's exactly what you did.
Yeah, I think I never want to be the type of person that be like, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, but what if I did? Like, just go for it, and it don't work out, then all right. Well, you can't say you didn't try it. Just go for it, what it is that you want to do, and I just don't want to sit back and just wonder, like, dang, if I would have went for that opportunity, or if I would have, especially when everything was lined up for you to go and actually do it. So I'm not that person. So if I feel like I have a vision, I feel like I got something that's been given to me, like, I want to put what I need to put into it to make sure that comes to pass.
And what's so crazy is when you sort of get to the other side of that. So you think of that, that before you make that big decision, right? And the sort of feelings and maybe the nervousness or the fear or all those things that are bubbling inside of you. You make that decision, it works out, and you look back and go, what was I afraid of?
Right. Yeah. I know the fear of the unknown can't keep you from reaching where you're supposed to be, because we don't know how it's going to come out. We have a plan. We have our plan in our head and how things supposed to go. And of course, our plan never has the hiccups that you will experience, or the detours and the hurdles and things, that your plan doesn't have that. Your plan is
flawless. It's flawless. It's perfect.
That's type plan, so that's how it's supposed to happen. But we know it don't work out that way. And I think if you just will allow yourself to pivot, that was my word. Definitely for last year was just pivot. You can't quit. So, you pivot or you adjust, you figure out, okay, what's next? I just always been like that. Just always been, okay, or what's next type of person. And I know that's instilled from my mom. I remember when I cheered all my life, it seemed like, it started with Pop Warner, and I got to middle school. And when we were in middle school in the 6th grade, we couldn't do any sports. So I was still doing Pop Warner cheer. So when it was time to try out in 7th grade, I just knew I was going to make it, because, I've been cheering since I was like 6. So, of course I got this, right? And I didn't make the cheer squad in middle school. And I was hurt. I was heartbroken. Yes. And to this day, I know it's because the cheer coach didn't like me, because she was my 6th grade teacher, but I digress. So whatever.
We've all had one of those. I get it.
Yeah. So I didn't make it. And I remember coming back to the car crying. And my mother was like, no, we don't do that. What's next? That's what she said to me. She was like, what's next? And that has always resonated with me. And anything that I do, is always what's next. And so then I went out for track and field, because you couldn't get cut. That's really the reason why I did it. And I thought I'd be pretty decent at it. So I stuck with it, but I just feel like if I never had that whole her telling me, just showing me like, hey,
Yes.
what's next? I would have been still waddling in the disappointment of not making something that clearly wasn't for me to do, right there. Because then I got to high school and I made the squad. So I know I was good enough for middle school, but just for that time, that just wasn't what it was supposed to be. So that's just kind of how I've always been. It's just the what's next site.
And what I love about that question, what's next, is it doesn't give you the time to wallow, like you said, right?
Right.
Because if you're not looking ahead after that disappointment, you're stuck in your own misery and tears or whatever and frustration, and all you do is get deeper and deeper into that. But when you're focusing on, okay, so this happened to me, I need to move forward because that's where I'm going. Things move along, that continues to happen versus being stuck, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So
you said something earlier that I want to zero back on when you talked about showing up for yourself. I wonder if you could just elaborate on that, because I think there's some great power in that when we identify as individuals, how we, what the impact we can have when we show up for ourselves first, and then obviously how we can impact others.
So my thing for this year, and shout out to my brother for this one, is 2023 is all about me, right? And I know that sounds so selfish, and that's cool, because I believe that self-care is not selfish care. And that's what that's all about. It's just 2023 all about me. It's just, really deciding to have self-care and making that a priority for yourself. Because if you don't, then you can't show up for other people. Like, we have so many other things that we do, I have responsibilities, I know what I have to do as a mom and all, and I've got all these other things on my plate, but I also know that I can't show up to be what I need to be, for instance, for my son, if I don't do what I need to do for myself first. So yeah, there are times when I'm not going to show up 100% every single day. Like, whoever lives that life, I need to meet you. It's just not going to be like that, but I'm gonna still show up. Right. I just, and it just may take a while for me to get like all of me that everybody's used to getting, but I'm gonna still show up. But that's just it. Sometimes if I could just only show up like this day, at least I showed up. And then, like you said, as the day goes on, or even the next day, you just try to do as much as you can, but you put yourself first. And there's absolutely, I don't believe that there's nothing selfish about that when it's done in a sense of I'm putting myself first to make myself better, to help other people. I'm not being selfish just to be, selfish. It's taking care of myself because we have to. This life that we have is not a dress rehearsal. We only get one. And so, like, we need to live it to the fullest, take care of ourselves the best that we can, and just allow that to be like our priority, that self-care. And whatever it is, it can be, if you're into the spa and you want to take a spa day, if you're into shopping, like retail therapy is my thing. So that's a good thing. If you just want to sit and binge watch on some movies just by yourself, that quiet time, you want to take that time just to journal. If you just want to walk in the park, I love, going by the water, like do anything like that. So whatever it is, don't always have to be something elaborate, it could just be something real simple, but it brings you back to self. And now you like, okay, now I can go out and do what it is I need to do.
And what's so key in that is knowing what you need individually. So, what you want or what I need are could be two different things, but it's important to understand yourself. So getting that self-care thing. And I like that line, self-care isn't selfish, because if you're looking after yourself, then you're actually, you are putting yourself in a position where you can better help others. Because if you're no good to yourself, you can't help other people, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah.
So I need to ask how the idea of you becoming an author came into play. I mean, you're juggling a bunch of things. Next year, you're an author. You're writing a book.
I know, right? I asked myself that too, because I never said I was going to grow up and write a book. Like that
was that even on the radar? Was that even on the radar?
Never even my thing. Never even my thing. Wow. Because I don't really like to write. Nor do I like to read like that. And that is just the whole oxymoron of this whole thing, right?
That's
like
funny.
In 2 chapters, I'm just like, oh, that's a long book. But yeah, so that was just never a thing, which is why my book is not so long and it's easy to read. It's to the point. That was the whole point, because I wanted to be able to read it. But now I'm into reading like other people's stories too, and other things out there as well. And then pushing, the importance of reading to my son, because we know it's important. Yes. But I wrote that as a form of healing. I wrote it and I always say it's my story for God to get the glory. And that's what it is. It's broken for the purpose. And that's what it's about. It's, parts of my story because I'm still living. So, and there's so much more I can write about. And, my niece was talking to me the other day. She was like, so when you want to come out with a part 2? And I was like, I don't know, because there is so much more that I could write about that I didn't even put in that book. But that was one of them. The biggest thing was trying to heal from losing my parents. That was the biggest disappointment, heartache, like all these words, adjectives that you could think of in my life. And that, it started when I was 15. And I said in my book, at 13 years old, you could not have set me down and said, okay, at 15, your mama's going to die. And at 20, your dad is going to die. So by the time you turn 21, you're going to be in college, but both of your parents are going to be deceased. Like I'd have been like, you crazy. Like, you're right. That cannot, there's no way I'm going to survive through that. Right.
Right.
So, but it happened. And I grieved, but not grieved, if that makes any sense, for a very long time. So, of course you grieve in the process of when it, especially when it first happens and all, and you have all these emotions. I was 15 years old when my mom died. And to me, I felt like it was just so unfair. Like, how could you do that? Because I have older brothers and they have more time with her. But here I am, I'm only 15. I ain't had that much time. It's not fair, and I was just about to go to high school. And it's just all these things, so, and then realizing at that age, all the things I would have to experience without her, that I felt like my brothers got a chance to experience because they're a lot older. I'm the baby.
Right.
So I had all of those emotions and feelings. And the whole not grieving thing was like on, holidays and birthdays, and even just thinking about her, I would just make myself extremely busy, just trying to go from one place to the next.
Yep. Understand.
So I did that for a long time though. I'm 41 years old. I didn't really start grieving and accepting the fact that they are both gone until I started writing this book 3 years ago. Wow. That's a long time. And there is no time limit on grieving. And I tell people that all the time. You do, and you're gonna have your days, and I still have mine. I still cry. I still feel like whatever it is, and I just allow myself to do it. Because I just feel like it's a lot easier than holding it in, because that's what I was doing. So when I started writing this book, chapter 2 talks about Hand Me My Straitjacket. That's the title of the chapter. And I wrote it out of order. So I wrote chapters 1, 3, 4, and 5 first, and then came back to 2, because I knew that was going to be the toughest chapter, because that was a chapter that I was going to finally be able to talk about losing my parents and what it felt like and what I was feeling and things that other people didn't know, that I'd never said anything to anybody about. I just held it all in, and now just to write about it. And I did that in hopes, encourage other people. Nobody that experienced loss it's difficult on everyone, especially when it's a loved one like that. So, but we all know that it's going to happen. We all know that we have our days. So, it's just, I wrote that book to try to get all those feelings out, so that I can breathe, so that it can be okay to listen to a song that makes me think of them and cry and just listen to the song all the way through. Or if I feel like the song is Together Again, Janet Jackson, I play it, and sometimes I can get through the whole thing and dance through the whole thing, and sometimes I can't. And it's cool. Like, that's okay. Like I'm starting to, it's fine if you want to cry. It's okay. So that was the main reason, is I know writing is a form of healing. Journaling is always a good thing to get it out. And so that was really the purpose of it. And then it just, turned into a whole book, and there it is. Wow.
To think, to hold back for so long. I've got to commend you for getting to the point where you're able to, because what you have to do is almost unearth everything to get it, to do the writing process. You almost got to relive it and unearth it and put it all out there.
That was hard. It was a lot of tears on that paper, because it was reliving that day that my mom passed, getting that news, what that was like, the day that my father passed, where I was, like, those moments you'll never forget, where you was, what you were doing, all that stuff. You never forget that. And so having to play those moments back in my head, and they were still so vivid, like it just happened, and then there's times I can talk about it, and there's times that I can't. So I felt like if you just write it down, it's just, it's always there. So if it, it's always something that you feel like you have to go back to, that you can. But even writing it, I wrote it like a story, like a movie, because that's what it felt like to me. Because I felt like I was in a dream for a long time, when that happened. So And
I read you also, you talked about being adopted as part of the process.
So that's the first chapter of the book, is what she didn't know. So I am adopted. So those parents that passed, they're not my biological parents, but they're only parents that I know.
Parents, yeah.
So yeah, and I have 4 brothers, and they're all older, and one passed away Valentine's Day of last year before. So it'll be 2 years this Valentine's Day.
Okay.
And that's something in my book that the book was, he actually came out on his birthday. He had passed that 2021 February. And so I released the book on April 21st, which was his birthday, as an honor to him. So, but everything that I went through with him, I didn't even talk about in my book. He had dementia. So just being like a caretaker for that is just a whole other book, right? Yes. So but I was adopted. Those are the only parents that I know. And I learned about my adoption through a piece of paper because I was very nosy, and I looked it up and it had my name on it. So I'm like, it's got to be about me. So read it, I was like 7, 8, or 9. I don't remember exactly what between those ages, but I could read a little bit, and I saw that, and I remember, and I put this in the book too. I remember just walking in, again, just something that I just remember like it was yesterday, walking into the room, talking about the word sexual molestation. And my cousin looked like, what in the world? Where did you get that from at this years old talking about that? And I was like, I found it on this piece of paper. And to this day, I'm just so grateful that my mother did not get upset. She didn't fuss and yell, you shouldn't be in that, you shouldn't be reading stuff. She didn't do that. She just embraced me at that moment, sat me down and told me, and that was the moment that she told me I was adopted and what that meant. Right. And so I always would commend her for that. She didn't try to, I guess she kept
cover it up or not like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure they were planning to tell me at some point. I don't know what point that was, but I just kind of, found out early, and it was just, so here we go. This is what we're going to do.
And so the moment that you found out, did you sort of understand, because you're still quite young, right? Did you understand what that meant and what sort of were you feeling about it?
No, I didn't understand what it meant, because my fear was that this woman which is what I call her, the lady who gave birth to me, was going to come out and get me. That was my biggest fear, because I'm like, yo, I've been with these. What you mean? Like, there's somebody else out there that actually gave birth to me. Like, y'all are the only parents that I know. And so when you're telling me this, my fear was, and I remember sleeping with them for weeks because I thought that this woman was going to come try to kidnap me and watch way too many Lifetime movies. But that's what I thought, So I was like, I was really scared. And then once all of that, sunk in that, all right, you was adopted and you got somebody else out there that's really your mom. Then it was, well, who could that be? So I started thinking things like Ricky Lake. Don't ask why Ricky Lake out of all people, but I did. Ricky Lake and Oprah were the 2 people that I thought.
Talk shows, I get it. Talk shows.
Yeah, I guess. I know, right? Out of all things, I really thought Ricky Lake and Oprah, out of all people. So that's the only, I guess you call it scary thing about being adopted. You just don't know. So I walk around every single day. You see people every day, and I get it all the time. Oh my God, you look like such and such, or such as like yesterday. Somebody asked me, "Oh, do you have a daughter?" No, it's not me. So and you just, I look like somebody. Everybody has that, right? But you don't know. You walking around here, and I could have saw the woman that gave birth to me at the Walmart last week. Who knows? Sure. That's the only thing about being adopted. You got that identity crisis, I guess.
Understood. Yeah. Well, almost that everyone wants that sense of belonging, right? And know who you belong to, or where what your tribe is, so to speak. And when you don't have that, sure, that question's out there. I think what's important is that you don't let that stop you from living your life or experiencing, as you said, this isn't a dress rehearsal. We got one life to live, right? Mm-hmm. So it doesn't, you don't stop because of these questions, because oftentimes you may find out these questions and it doesn't have any impact on you. You're like, okay, now life still continues, right?
Right, exactly. I don't, I did go through that whole sense of who am I, who do I belong to, and all that, and feeling like there was a void there. But I don't feel that anymore. I would love to meet the woman who gave birth to me. I just would want to lay my eyes on her and call them a sperm donor, because it was unknown on the birth certificate. So I don't even know who that is. So, but I would love to just lay my eyes on them just to see what they look like. I mean, the woman that gave birth to me, she got to look good. I'm just going to go with that. You know what I mean? So I know that, but I don't, I just want to see, just that curiosity there. Right. But otherwise than that, I really don't care to have a relationship or anything like that. Cool. I'm good now. I think obviously years ago there was bitterness there. There was, how could you do this? Why did you do this? Why, how do you think about me on my birthday? Do you even know it was my birthday? Do you know? But now I'm like, thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing what you did, because you allowed me to have another life, a better life. And I thank you for that. I thank you that you did decide to have me. What you did wasn't cool, but you know what? The parents that had me, they truly adhere to Proverbs 22:6. They did just that. And I'm just grateful for that.
Very lovely. And I think that to me is such a wonderful approach, right? As opposed to taking the bitter or negative route, you can find the glory and the goodness in what you have in front of you. And I think, when we can take that path or make that choice, we'll always be better in the long run. There's no question.
Yeah. I agree. So if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, it's cool. Gotcha. That's where I am now. Yeah.
Now, so again, the title is Broken for the Purpose. Explain the title, please. How did you land on that title?
Because all the things that's happened, like I said, in my first chapter is called What She Didn't Know. And at the end of the chapter, it says what she didn't know is that she birthed purpose not only once, but twice. So, she gave me life, and that was part of the purpose. And then her doing what she did to me for me to be adopted, that was the second part of it. And so that happened. And then, losing my parents happened, losing all these jobs, not being able to get accepted into law school, which was a really big deal to me, Sure. All of that happened. And it's just, you feel so broken, like all these things, just because things don't work out the way that you think they should. And so you feel that brokenness, but it's all for a purpose. Yes. And so I made that happen, but the pieces are right where they need to be. You have to go through that breaking in order to fulfill everything that God has for you. It's just not going to happen, because if we don't, then what's the point of needing God? If we could just do this on our own, then what's the point, right? And so he has to show us like, hey, I'm still in control here. Like I have the entire world in my hands, just like he said. And so there's some things that there's some things that has to be broken down in you in order to accomplish the very thing that you need to accomplish.
And that's hard for people to make it understand. I've got to be broken first and be at the bottom before I can get back up, right? Because for some people, they don't want to. Some they don't want to go there. Some don't want to admit that they're there, right? So you have all kinds of going on, but there is some value, because then you can truly see yourself for who you are, right? Everything's stripped away. It's just you, and it's almost an opportunity to start from scratch.
Right. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Awesome. Your faith has been incredibly important to you, and you believe in God's presence in your life. I want you to talk about how the difference that has made on this journey of yours. As you said earlier, it's not been easy. There's been challenges, there's been obstacles, but you've still continued to remain constant.
Yeah, it is challenging, because we are human, and sometimes you want to throw in a towel and God just throws it right back, right? And that is so true. But I think it's just important to establish that relationship. And then once we had a relationship, I grew up in the church. And so, we were taught certain things, and went to church every Sunday, you went to Bible study, and you did all that Sunday school and all that great stuff. That's great. But, if you don't really have that relationship with God, the religion doesn't matter. But you learn that as you begin to have the relationship with God. And so that's just kind of where I'm at. Both of my parents are dead. Like that is just, and they were the ones, especially my mom, that instilled this in me. So you take that away, and then you still want me to believe in you. You still want me to trust you. And then you don't give me things that I felt like I should have, because I asked you for it. Like, you have to have that relationship. Good thing that he doesn't treat us like we do sometimes. We do turn our back. And I did turn my back. Yes. I thought this is not the way it's supposed to be. So, but something will quickly happen to snatch you right back and be like, this is exactly, where you need to be. You got to realize, that difference between joy and happiness. For me, that happiness is an emotion, and it's brought on by circumstances. But that joy is just something that no matter what the circumstances are, at the end of the day, this is what you have, and it can't be taken away. And I think that's what drives me each day. I have things that happen in my life. I got situations that goes on, circumstances that makes me emotional, but I can't let those emotions drive what I'm doing and where I'm supposed to be. Right. So I'm gonna go through it, because, I am human. Yes. And you gotta let it out. Yes. But you got to come out of it. So you just can't stay in that place.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's I oftentimes use the analogy of the hills and the valleys, right? And in the valleys where all the yucky, icky stuff happened, but on the hill is where there's joy and there's sunshine and there's fun. And so the idea is, we know the valleys are going to come, but find a way to get back to the top of the hill as quickly as we can so we can celebrate and enjoy life.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Tameka, this has been so much fun, and I really appreciated hearing your story and really appreciate the way you love life in such a bright way. I think as I see what I did there.
Yeah, I like that. It was good. Ding, ding, ding.
No, but in all seriousness, I think that's what it is on this podcast. We talk so much about the importance of being audacious, and within that, it encompasses taking risks and being bold and taking chances when we don't know what the outcome will be. And so you've definitely done that. I wonder if last word of advice for people, if you're encouraging someone and they were on this trying to understand this thing about being audacious and what that meant and how they incorporate it in their lives, what would you tell them, or how would you get them to recognize the importance of taking that step?
First of all, I love the word audacious. So dope. I like that word. Every year I do, we do the vision boards and the manifestation boards and that. Yes. And every year I like to do that. And I like to come up with the word, what my word is going to be for the year, and then back that up with the scripture. Okay. And so this word for me this year is intentional. And I think that's what just what being bold and audacious and all that is about. It's just being intentional about where you're going, what you want to be, who you want around you, the type of energy, the type of vibes, whatever that is, yes. Just being intentional about that in your work and what you do, and backing it up with scripture is, Ephesians 5 tells us that we be intentional about what it is we're doing, knowing that it is the work of God. That's who we work for. Right. And all that other stuff just doesn't matter. Like the validation from anybody else doesn't matter. So you got validation from one person, God, and that's all you need. And then you keep it moving from there. So it's just being intentional, letting your yes mean yes and your no's mean no. Yes, and that takes some work, knowing when to say no, yes, so, yes. So that would be what I would say, just be intentional.
And I think intentional is a great word, because you're being very deliberate in your actions, and it's like, and what it also does, it supports the fact that you've got a why, you've got a plan, right? And your intentionality is feeding that plan to where you want to go, as opposed to kind of just sort of haphazardly existing and going wherever the wind takes you, right?
Right. Yep. That's true. Yeah, kind of going with the flow. I mean, my thing is, it is what it is. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. Gotcha. I say that all the time. So
got you.
Yeah.
I gotta ask you have a love for the color pink. Tell me what that's all about.
Yeah, it's really my favorite color is anything that blings. To be honest, bling is a color, so that is my thing. But bling conversations just doesn't. Maybe it does have a good ring to it. And I think about it, but my favorite color on top of that is purple. That is my favorite color. However, it's kind of migrated to pink because everything now is pink. And when I came up with the podcast, Pink Conversations, Purple Conversations just didn't have a ring to it. So Pink Conversations did, and that's what I went with. So, and I get asked all the time, is it just for women? And it's not. It didn't set out to be just for women just because of the name. It was just, I like the color pink and I like to conversate. And so there we go, Pink Conversations, So, yeah.
And what's the focus of the podcast?
The focus is empower, inform, inspire. And so that's what it is. Pink Conversations, empower, inform, inspire. So I have not done it in over a year. April 21st was the last episode when I released my book. So it's going on 2 years now. But what I do with my show with Midday Vibes is I incorporate on Wednesdays, is Pink Conversation Wednesdays. So some of the elements of my Pink Conversations in that, like my Building Empires and Leaving Legacies, Queen Spotlight. That is all about my queens. Confident Vibes with Style, girl Feliciano. So that
I love it.
It's kind of now being like a women's empowerment type thing, and that's cool. But it is for everyone, to listen to. But that's the gist behind it. It's just to empower, inform, inspire.
Absolutely, and that's so important. I mean, oftentimes, people will need that one word, that one thing, that one trigger to get them over the top, and if we can do that through our platforms,
Mhm.
then I think we've done our job. So, congratulations! Shout out to fellow podcaster, shout out
Thank
to
you.
the author, to the speaker, the radio host, to the mom. All these things all in one,
Right.
and they're all very, very, very important jobs. So congratulations, Tameka, on doing your thing, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
For,
Thank you for having me.
for our listeners who want to learn more about your book or your podcast or your work, where can we send them?
So you can go to my website. It's tamekabright.com. So it's TAMEKA and Bright BRIGHT.com. And you can order the book from there. It's also on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles, as well as Broken for the Purpose. And yeah, I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Tameka S. Bright. And that's that.
Awesome. Tameka, thank you for doing this. It was a pleasure. Glad we got to connect. And
yes,
all the best.
Thank you. Yes, you too. Thank you. Thank you very much for all you do. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Back we are here on the podcast, and gotta send my thanks and appreciation to Tameka for being here and sharing her powerful story. Listen, as you heard from Tameka's story that she shared with us, hard times are difficult. They're difficult and they're inevitable. But it's important that we push through and outlast adversity, because on the other side is where all the greatness lies. So again, thank you, Tameka, for being here and sharing. Of course, her book is Broken by Purpose, and I encourage all of you to pick yourself up a copy. It certainly is a great read, and it's her own personal story, and there's a lot to it, that's for sure. When I think back to my chat with Tameka, she really left us with a lot of important points, and I really appreciate so much of what she had to say. But if there's just one thing that I would take from our conversation, it would be this. When things are going our way and everything is good, it takes no special skill, strategy, or discipline to enjoy the things life has to offer. Oftentimes, the biggest test to our character appears in the midst of adversity and difficult setback. It's at that point that our happiness and joy are truly put to the test. Finding moments of gratitude becomes harder. Being appreciative of the gifts of life turns into a challenge, and falling into a negative space suddenly becomes a reality as we stand at the edge of what could be a very, very dark place. Maintaining a sense of happiness in difficult times requires deliberate, intentional action on our part that will help provide perspective, which in turn will allow us to see that what we're experiencing isn't happening to us, but rather it's happening for us. When we consciously make an effort to pay attention to on what makes you happy and use this as a platform to meet and overcome our challenges, we'll be successful in doing just that, finding happiness, joy, peace, and audaciousness. Hey, listen, if you haven't registered for email notifications of the podcast, please know that you can do so simply by heading over to bestaudaciouslife.com, and all you've got to do is enter in your email address and you'll be alerted every time we've got brand new content that comes out. We've unfortunately reached the end of another episode of the Audacious Living Podcast, and as always, I send my thanks and appreciation to our amazing listeners. For all those lovers of audaciousness, I say thank you, and I appreciate your tremendous and ongoing support. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, and show love to one another. Be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.